Hey, what's up, everybody? So, I'm stunned. Y'all thought Kawhi Leonard was a crazy situation, him going to the Clippers, just baffling everybody. What Daryl Morey and Sam Presti just did was equally as baffling to me. I am totally confused. I'm confused on so many levels. First of all, how do you envision Russell Westbrook and James Harden working in 2019? I saw it work in the early 2000s, or whenever they first got drafted, early 2010s, whatever the heck it was. I saw that because James Harden was a bench player. James Harden was a facilitator. His role on the Thunder was nothing even remotely like the role he has right now. And that's putting it lightly. Just a different role, totally different player, totally different time. Russell Westbrook's role has never changed. He's had the same role since he was a rookie. So I have to ask, what do you think is actually going to take place here? And it's so wide in terms of how well this team can do versus how bad it can do. Like, they could easily miss the playoffs altogether. Like, I could totally see that. And they could easily also be in the second round. Like, easily. Just because of the type of star power you're talking about with those two players. I said in the last video when I mentioned these two, when I was hearing hints that this could actually be a possibility, I said that there's something to be said for synergy. So they have played together. They've played together in a high level. So I'm going to stick with that and say it's possible it could work. That's why I'm not calling it a stupid trade for the Rockets. But a crazy one? Yeah, that is absolutely insane. And not in a good way. Like, Daryl Morey and the owner of the Rockets, whoever that is, I don't know. I'm ignorant in that regard. They need their heads checked. For real. Drug tested. Real talk. Because how you convince yourself that this makes sense? Even with the analytics, I don't know what the analytics told them. It had to tell them something good because the Rockets don't do nothing without their analytics telling them it's safe to do. But I cannot foresee any way this works. Okay, no way. It can. Let me rephrase that because I sound like I'm talking out two sides of my mouth. I don't believe this is going to work. I don't believe it's going to work. I don't think it can work. But we'll see. I'll just leave it at that. We will see. Chris Paul side of things. What? So you traded Chris Paul to the Thunder to be by himself. Okay, fine, whatever, you got rid of him. Who cares? You're the Rockets, you're happy you got rid of him. The Thunder, you're bringing in Chris Paul's contract? What? That doesn't make any sense, Sam. Like, no sense at all. You're trying to get rid of a large contract, fam. Why are you bringing back a large contract in regards to getting rid of a large contract? How does this make sense? On what planet does this make sense? I saw that somebody gave up some picks in 2021, 2020. I think it was the Rockets. I don't know who it was, but I know some picks were involved. I would have to assume the older player is the one that's attached to the pick, so I'm just going to assume it's the Thunder sending picks to the Rockets. Or, excuse me, the Rockets sending picks to the Thunder. Either way, there were picks involved in this thing. I have to look at the trade again to actually know what it is. Y'all know what it is. Either way, it's Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. Now, the Thunder. Here we go into my next part of this confusion. So you're going to stretch him? Why didn't you just stretch Russell Westbrook? You have plans for old Chris Paul and no supporting cast? You think he's going to be happy in that situation? Obviously you don't. So you plan on stretching him. Why didn't you just stretch Westbrook? I'm sure there's a logical answer for that. I'm sure it has something to do with some numbers and some contract stuff. Because they're, to the naked eye, to those who wouldn't understand the contract stuff like myself, looking at it just on paper, I can't make any sense of this for the Thunder. I can't make any sense of any of this for the Thunder. They didn't have to rebuild, man. Like, let's just be honest. The Thunder were still a playoff team. Russell Westbrook and Paul George, they still were a playoff team. They weren't a great team, but I just think the rebuild was kind of rushed. And I understand that Paul George said he wanted out. But, like, why didn't y'all try to trade for Bradley Beal? Why didn't y'all try to, like, go after somebody like that? I don't understand why You bring in a guy who's attached to a very, very large contract, who's obviously going to be very unhappy and playing by himself in a city that he has no intention of staying in. What? So, like, let me transition into the stuff that concerns my squad. So now, Chris Paul likely gets stretched, or not. I don't even know if it's possible to stretch a contract that big. That's another thing. Can they stretch it? But let's just assume it's possible. Let's just assume it does happen. He becomes a free agent immediately. Oh, now it's about who gets him. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about who gets Chris Paul now. Because if he goes to the right team, it's over. And when I say over, I mean long gone. Foregone conclusion, championship goes to that team. If Chris Paul goes to the Lakers, we are winning the championship. I've said it before on record. I'm going to say it right now. If Chris Paul ends up a Laker, Clippers are not winning this year. They are not. Here's the problem. How the hell are Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo going to play together? They hate each other. That is known understanding. That's an understanding that the entire league has. And two men do not like each other. You can't keep them in a room together for 5 minutes without it being a problem. It's going to be a problem. It's not like, I don't know how they can coexist in any way, shape, or form. I just don't. I wouldn't even really want them facing off against each other. That's how bad I perceive that situation to be. Now, these are two grown men professionals, so if they have to put their crap aside, I'd like to think that these two geniuses are capable of doing that. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't put no money on that. I wouldn't put any money on that. Not after what was said. Not after how things have been kind of aired out in the media. No, those two people are not going to be able to coexist. If I have to choose one, it's going to be Chris Paul. It's always been Chris Paul. That's not really difficult for me. But I respect Rajon Rondo's ability. I've seen him do beyond amazing things, statistically beyond amazing things on the basketball floor when it matters, on both ends of the floor. And he's won championships. Or a championship. He's a champion. Can't take that from him. Chris Paul has not even been to a Western Conference Finals. There is something to be said for that. However, all that's going to change if he ends up a Laker. I'm telling all of you, I am sure that the Lakers are going to win the championship if we get Chris Paul. I'm sure of it. That's how serious that is. It's over. So, on the other hand, if the Clippers get Chris Paul back, now I don't see him going back there. I don't think he wants to go back there. But if they get Chris Paul, I think we're in trouble. I really do. Because Patrick Beverley don't scare me. I know y'all are hyped up on Patrick Beverley because of his mouth. He's done a good job, like LeVar Ball, of talking himself up. That's what Beverley has done. He's a really, really gifted defender. I don't want to take that from him. And he can shoot the three a little streaky and all that, but he ain't. That's a role player, ladies and gentlemen. That's a role player. A respectable one. Somebody with the reputation of an Oakley type of guy going forward. I think he's going to be that kind of spirit for the Clippers. But he ain't no Chris Paul, dude. If you have a chance to get Chris Paul, you bring in Chris Paul. Period. Like, there's nothing to talk about. So, with that being said, I think that it's a big deal if Chris Paul goes to one of these LA teams. Big deal. And I would imagine that's probably where he's headed. One of these two teams. Now, I know he's played for the Clippers. He's had a lot of success with the Clippers. Clipper type of success, which means playoff basketball. And, that's a familiarity. That's his legacy is attached to that place. He should probably have his jersey retired there. So if he goes back there, you can see it. I don't know what to say about it, but it's like, okay, I can see that. But if he comes to the Lakers, whoo, and he should have always been a Laker. We all know that. This is a great opportunity for him to become a Laker if he wants to be. But I can see him doing other things. There are other teams he can go to and quickly contend. Don't let him go to Dallas. Please don't let him go to Dallas. I'm already scared of that team to a degree. I just think with those two Euro superstars, and they're both volatile in the sense that you really don't know what you're going to get from them, but you know it can be ridiculous. Porzingis and Luka Doncic is going to be one of the best duos in the game. Even though there are a lot of great duos out there, they're going to be up there with them. Chris Paul going there is a problem. I'm telling you. He go there, that changes things. And there are many other teams he can go to and change things too. Philadelphia needs a point guard. With respects to Ben Simmons, he needs to move his big butt to the power forward position if he's not going to shoot. That's how I feel. I'm sorry. That's how I feel, bro. I know you want to, and I got to say this about Ben Simmons. I know you don't feel like you should be taking shots, ruining your percentages this early in your career because you do plan on developing that shot. And when you do, you'll take it with confidence. I have faith in that. I know that's coming. And I know you're a smart enough, cerebral enough player and a self-aware enough player to know when you should and should not take shots, and you haven't taken them because you know you're not going to make them or you don't believe you're going to make them. But if you're not going to help space the floor, you cannot be the primary ball handler. Not in today's NBA. And I think that's been said 150 times by many other people, and I'm just going to be one of many that say it. It's just not. I don't want him as my point guard, bro. I don't. I want him to play power forward because he's huge and he's great in the paint and he passes really, really well and he rebounds extremely well and he's a fantastic defensive player. He's becoming a fantastic defensive player, and I want him on the floor. I want him starting. I think he's going to make a multiple all-star games. I think he has a chance of being a champion one day, all that good stuff. I really do believe in Ben Simmons. I truly do. But I don't want him as my point guard no more than I want anybody who can't shoot being my point guard. And, you know, that I had to say the same thing for Lonzo Ball. I love Lonzo's game, but I couldn't put him on this Laker team because he can't shoot. So, like, spacing is what it's about. It's not about necessarily even being able to shoot. It's about posing the threat of shooting so that the defenses can't clog the lane. And so if Chris Paul were to go to the 76ers, I think they would be favorites to come out of the East. Easy favorites to come out of the East. If he were to go to the Bucks, I don't know about that fit because I think Bledsoe with his athleticism, I don't know where he's at in his career, but last I saw, Bledsoe had a lot left. I like his strength and his power for their team. But, you know, add Chris Paul to that. They've lost Brogdon, so they would be able to slip Chris Paul into the Brogdon role to a degree, and you can move Bledsoe between the 1 and the 2. So that would work. It would. I ain't going to say they won't win a championship, but it would definitely work. And then there are plenty of teams that he can go to and change the world for them. You know, Chris Paul is still that kind of guy, even though he's not going to do a whole lot locking people down. He's not quite as quick as he used to be, all that good stuff. But he's still one of the best point guards the game's ever seen. And I don't think there's any reason to believe he couldn't do a lot of damage, a whole lot of damage, if given a lot of open looks, like he would be getting on both of these LA teams. So, yeah, man, I'm hoping Chris Paul does get bought out. And, of course, I've said on the record many times that I think if he comes to the Lakers, it'll work out. So, yeah, do that, Chris. Come to the Lakers, dude. If you get bought out, I can't imagine he's gonna want demand extra money, knowing that his contract is very much firmly in his pocket. That contract is gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine for the rest of his life. I don't think it's time to be chasing money. It's time to chase the finals. And there's really only 2 places that he can guarantee himself a finals appearance, in my opinion. Well, 3, and I've just named them. So, yeah. I'm confused. Overall, I'm confused. None of this really makes sense to me. And I'll leave it at that. PDF.